Bear.
Trust Dennis.
Try it for real.
She understands what it is, yeah. But it's also a country that has oil, right? Sweet crude that is easy to process. And we're in Libya. Talk about Libya, you think of Muammar Gaddafi and what the country was. You talk about education, an economy that was working, healthcare that was working. You get out of school, no employment, but there's still a stipend that you continue to have. His push was that of having a united Africa with a single currency that pushes the continent forward. Unfortunately, he was taken out. Libya has never recovered since 2011. But let's go to the proverb that we get this morning, even as Javas Bigambo walks in, Karibu Sana, right? If you have me, you show me. If you don't share me, you don't have me. How would you interpret that? What are we talking about? If you have me, you share me. If you don't share me, you don't have me.
I think it's just the thinking that whatever resources we have available, it's extremely important that we responsibly share them with each other. And the truth is that if we don't have some resources, we will have nothing to consume. And the Swahili normally say, kama hatuna hatuli, kama tunayo twajifundira. Like if we have plenty, we will eat and eat in plenty. We'll abuse the meal. But if we don't have, we have nothing. I think it speaks a lot to most of Africa concerning some of the resources that we don't have across the board, but we can share with each other. And unfortunately, we've done a very bad job of sharing those resources. We are doing a better job of sharing them with outsiders than we are sharing them locally.
Yeah. Javas Bigambo, Karibu Sana.
Asante.
How would you interpret our proverb? If you have me, you share me. If you don't share me, you don't have me.
Well, there are very many lenses or prisms of perspective that could afford that interpretation. I am an African. And in Africa, we believe in community and that sharing is caring. But basically, I think it is an elevated perspective of the greater sense that is derived from the joy of community, sharing moments, because moments create memories. And that's just who we are, the essence of humanity. Yeah.
The essence of humanity. Very interesting. Okay, well, we've come off of a weekend that I don't think is in the doubt in anybody's mind that should not have unfurled in the manner in which it did. And that if it points to anything, then it's interesting because we had a couple of calls on Friday and a gentleman called in, an elderly gentleman, and he said, you know what? It's going to be bad, folks, so you need to saddle up and gear for a very, very terrible, next couple of months. If this is anything to go by, then it's not a good situation. And that was even before this happened. And I would be interested to pick his brain this morning in terms of what he's feeling after the weekend has come and gone. But that what we did see in Kisumu and Nyahururu yesterday, I don't know what adjective to quite apply to it. However, we'd like to hear your thoughts in terms of what direction are we talking about now? Game Plan 2027. It seems as though the modus operandi is to try to shut folks down with violence, and that will, win the race. Stella?
Let me start from Dennis's proverb. If you have peace, you share it. If you do not share peace, you will not have it. You definitely will not have it. I think I've been in this studio before and I predicted that the trends that had started of violence around the elections, intolerance for rallies, intolerance for even a conversation, the pronouncements that politicians have been making were definitely a sign that the 2027 elections were going to be problematic. I had also warned very early that this is definitely going to, first of all, sideline the women of this country before it sidelines anybody else. Because the first group that you send away is the group that is averse to violence. And then the next group that is going to follow is a group of younger voters who don't necessarily want to engage in I don't have good words to call it for now, but basically a battle of thoraxes in the country. And I think this weekend is just an escalation of a matter that will continue if we don't do something about it. I'm also troubled by the fact that there's a bit of gaslighting from the government. I don't know why a Kenyan on the street is complaining about violence, electoral violence, and talking about peace and how we should maintain it. And then the Cabinet Secretary for Interior is also complaining about violence and accusing someone for it. And then the PS is also talking about violence and accusing someone for it. I imagine that citizens can complain, and they should complain because they have paid taxes in order for someone to provide security. They have also ceded power to a government to protect them and protect their property. And so they can complain, they can wallow about it. But the person who is receiving these taxes, who is sitting in office to provide this security, cannot be found complaining with the rest of the citizens. So the question I'm asking is, and I've had several names being mentioned, people being accused of organizing the violence. I don't know why they have not been arrested. I don't know why nothing has been done to them. The CS cannot be complaining about these people committing those crimes, and yet there's no police action to arrest these people. The other thing that I'm deeply concerned about is the fact that even without the arrests, we are seeing people brandishing uniform weapons. You know, when violence is spontaneous, people come with what they have at home.
Stone.
So, for example, you will not have standard rungus. The Maasais have a unique rungu. Luos have a unique rungu. How is it that we have standard rungus being used in the situation? In the year 2007, the current MP for Budalangi was in a bit of trouble around the election because his brother and some two gentlemen were found driving a vehicle registered in his name, and he had the same rungus we are seeing today, and machetes and some Somali knives in the vehicle. He was not even found in the vehicle, but he had to be presented to the police, and he had to record a statement, and the vehicle was impounded for some days. Well, I'm lost for words why he's in office today after that event. But the bottom line is that possibly he found a way to defend himself because he was not the one who was driving the vehicle. However, at least then we saw some action from the Independent Electoral Commission. We saw some action from the police, the arrested. Today, the police are on the same side as the rungu brandishing people. It would be difficult to convince anyone that the state is not involved in this kind of violence. And the question I'm asking myself is this really where we want to take our nation? Is this really the direction we want to take as a people? Are we not forewarned after what we saw in the year 2007 about where this could lead to? We have neighbors who have been in conflict for a very, very long time. And one of the things that we have been celebrating as a nation, even when we were with our dictator of dictators, Moi, is that we were saying Kenya has continued to be a sea, rather than an island of peace in a sea of violence. Is it that we haven't seen enough from our neighbors to know that we should treasure the peace that we have? And the question again that I have today, this morning, for our politicians is it that bad? Do you truly have to take politics and by all means, including allowing for everybody to die and blood to be shed all over? I think we must ask ourselves very difficult questions.
I mean, Jeffers, today as we sit in this studio, we're just from a very difficult weekend where we saw what happened in what would be a peaceful rally that was ongoing well, gunshots, a driver to a governor, rubber bullets on the chest. You look at what happened in Kisumu, and one asks the question, where is the government? Where is the police? As the people who've been given the power to have all the weapons, to have monopoly of violence, to protect property and human life. Like Stella is saying, government is complaining together with Wananchi, which shouldn't be the case, because that speaks to individuals who do not know their job and shouldn't be there to start with. Why the lull? Why the silence?
You ask the question, where is the government? I think I would invert it. where is our sanity as a people? Where is our sanity? Because we seem to be riding on the crest of our savageness and blind to the realities of the humaneness that perpetuate community, which makes progress possible. And I read somewhere, and we're coming from the weekend in the scripture, that since the days of John the Baptist, the kingdom of heaven has suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. And so it seems with our political kingdom. Now, of course, in scripture does not necessarily mean the violence that is propagated by weaponry. But I think when we appreciate the history of our times, even former times, we on this part of the globe, the southern part, particularly Africa, and here in Kenya in particular, we have made politics extremely, yes, competitive, fearsome, and a matter of do or die, as though our own individual lives depend on it, so much that people are willing to put anything on the line to achieve their ends in politics, whether they are aligned to government, opposition, etc. Now, look, the logics of predation, elite control, and thuggery in the bosom of ethnic politics is driving our politics today. Look, every by-election in this country has had high stakes. Cases of violence reported. Yes, we have seen complaints and early warning about cases of violence, but we believe in a constitutional democracy that we are under the rule of law. Now, you ask, where is government? We have got institutions in place, Dennis. We have got the IEBC. We have got the Elections Act, Offences Act, the IEBC Act itself. We have got the Electoral Code of Conduct. And when you look at the wholesomeness of the Electoral Code of Conduct, IEBC has got all the powers through its committee to subpoena any person, any political party, even government, to avail whether it's documents, any material evidence that can be helpful in investigations so that persons who are culpable can be brought to book. When you also appreciate the import of Article 157 of the Constitution, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, where power to prosecute is vested, is supposed to exercise the mandate of that office for public good. Now, these are the institutions that are supposed to act out for the benefit of the people. Just recently, we had the CS for Interior, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, in fact warning, and that's the officials indicating that even as we head to the election of 2027, any persons that will be found culpable on matters incitement, occasioning violence, will be brought to book. And in fact, just a minute, in fact, he even called out Honorable Rigathi Gachagua and said that even him is not above the law, and any person, whether government side or any person, will be held to account. And of course, we even had these supporters and friends indicating that if government dares do that, then they will know why is it that chicken do not have teeth.
They do actually, but okay.
Yeah. Now, you see, that is the kind of
It's
impunity.
just a joke, sorry.
The kind of impunity in which we live. That some politicians think that because they are overzealous about the control they have in particular areas and regions, and for me, I've in fact, Dennis, here in this studio, on this seat, I have castigated Rigathi Gachagua for the kind of politics he's continued to play. I've called him out for who he is, an overzealous tribal bigot and a village tyrant who thinks that the country should kowtow to him just because of the control that he has
Javas,
on Mount Kenya.
One still asks the question, IEBC, IPOA, ODPP, and police operate in an ecosystem in a country called Kenya.
Correct.
That even when we do have elections, the police and the government is still mandated to ensure that life and property is protected.
Correct.
Whilst IEBC will get into investigations with regard to the Election Act, the government still has the responsibility of making sure that citizens and property is protected. And I ask the question, where is the government in assuring Kenyans that regardless of whether it's an election, whether IEBC is doing their part, whether ODPP is doing their part, that they are protecting life and property?
Now, Dennis, I think there is a lapse here in consideration of issues where we think government and all these other public institutions are different. All these are government. Now, we have got institutions that are supposed to act and work independently, are supposed to work as such because they are financed by the exchequer. We do not expect to have IEBC looking over its shoulders before it acts, or the ODPP, or IPOA. Now, what we need actually right now, and I agree with Stella in some part of her sentiments, we expect independent, thorough investigations by the police, by IPOA, by the DCI. We've got all these agencies properly facilitated. We expect IEBC not just to speak from the rooftops, making warnings about possible cancellation or postponement of the elections in by-elections in Ol-Kalou. We want them to take action. We look at the Register of Political Parties. The issue of looking at the conduct, the regulation of political parties, whether it's during by-elections or not, it is a duty that is due to that office. So government includes all these entities.
So is the IEBC failing by not doing what we think should be done? And I'll give you an example. You mentioned by-elections that have been violent. The last by-elections that took place between October 2025 and February this year were laced, not just laced, they were marked by violence. Magarini, Malaba, Mbere North, where interestingly enough, IEBC commissioners were present at polling stations while these things were happening, contrary to their own directive that you must vote and go home. Now, if they see these things happening under the cover of daylight, why wouldn't they act? And so if they have not, have they failed?
Now, IEBC should live up to the mandate that it has.
Have they failed if they don't act?
We expect it to act better than it's doing today.
Have they failed if they haven't?
IEBC is not doing exactly that which is supposed to be done. To that extent, they are failing.
Okay.
To that extent, they are failing to live up to the mandate that the law bestows upon them.
Now, let me ask the next question. It is coming in rapid succession because these are yes or no's, Javas. Here's a picture on the Star, right? There's a group of individuals. Well, actually, and in front of them, they're wielding these weapons that Stella has. What did you call them? Uniform weapons. Right. They have them. Rungus, some have bow and arrows. And in front of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 officers in uniform, kind of just looking at them. Now, that's the question Dennis asks. Why wouldn't you round up these fellas, tie them up, put them in a corner and say, okay, no, you guys, we're not going to do this today? Why wouldn't you do that? And so who do you hold responsible when you're looking in the face of violence like this and you do nothing about it?
No. All of us must be incensed at those photos. All of us. In fact, this morning, and as we are looking at all the news emerging from the events of the weekend, the Inspector General of Police must respond to all these issues and take action. Why is it that the IG of Police is not acting in these circumstances? That is the duty of the Inspector General of Police. Now, the other thing is this. That's why I said earlier, Dennis, that we expect thorough investigations. We expect accountability. The IG must be held to account on these happenings. The other thing is this. This issue is not just about government alone. And that's why I asked, where is our sanity? When ordinary citizens, some of them on payrolls, for example, of politicians, young people that are jobless being taken advantage of by certain politicians. It's about ourselves too. Our democracy faces an existential threat when members within the society, whether police officers, whether civilians, whether activists, engage in acts or omissions that subvert the cause of justice, the cause of liberal democracy, the perpetuation of independent institutions, and the integrity of those institutions. And so I think from where I sit, I would say that we expect better of ourselves, we expect better of public institutions, we expect better of institutions even that are not government aligned. And the blame today, if you ask me, you mentioned even Mbeere. We saw some key political figures in Mbeere who were even engaging in acts of violence and intimidation. No action has been taken against them. The blame squarely falls and the responsibility on the police and the IBC to take action.
Okay. Stella, even as we go to break, sorry. We talk about expectation. A child is born, you expect that by the time they are out of the womb, they can suckle. They're doing that. Expectation. If it doesn't happen, something. They get to 3-4 months, we expect some teeth to start popping up. By the time they get to 8 to 9 months, we expect them to crawl. By the time they get to a year, we expect them to walk. If they are not doing any of these things, what do? We bring in an intervention, isn't it? Okay. On the expectation that police should arrest criminals, because I think I'm tired of them being called goons. Criminals. The expectation that the individuals for whom it has been made public by those who, can you imagine, you pay somebody money to do a violent act and they even come and say, yes, it was this guy who paid us to do it. The individuals have not been arrested. One of the most famous cases of an individual who was not directly involved in violence was Felicien Kabuga, who recently died in a prison. They looked for him for years. They did not see him in the streets of Rwanda actually putting his hand to someone's neck. But he said that he financed a lot of this. And so he was a person of interest. Now, with these expectations that seem to be dashed against the rock by Javas's admission, what do you do when the expectation is unmet and we continue to spiral into this dark abyss?
I think, you must have heard me giggling a lot while my friend Javas was speaking. Javas has been my friend for very many years, and this man is a brilliant man. And I think it's the brains that sometimes allow him to play the games that he plays with English when he cannot defend the position he finds himself in. And I think the beauty of it is that he, possibly because of his foundation, he struggles to depart truly from the truth. So he must find a way to pivot around the truth even as he's running away from it. The question of who is responsible for arresting is not a question Kenyans are asking. The question of who is responsible for calling out errant politicians is not a question Kenyans are asking. The question of who is supposed to be prosecuting is not a question Kenyans are asking. As a matter of fact, those are all questions that Kenyans answered in their constitution. They voted for that constitution. It was promulgated, and therefore we should be abiding by that constitution. Anybody who does not abide by that constitution, there are mechanisms to actually deal with those people. If it is not happening, it then means there's a problem in the system. And that problem is what I think the crux of our conversation is supposed to be about today. Javas did mention the good book, and he was quoting Matthew 11:12. That says, since the times of John the Baptist, the kingdom of heaven has suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. The violence described in that verse is the violence of the gap. People who can use language effectively to convince people and influence people into joining or leaving a camp. So the only violence we should be seeing, if that is the word we should go by, is people going to rallies, Dennis, having conversations with Kenyans, telling Kenyans, this is what I will do for you, this is what I'm going to make sure I stop, vote for me. That is the only violence you should be seeing. Unfortunately, we are seeing different forms of violence and people sponsoring the procurement of different kinds of weapons to be used to intimidate people on the ground. The fact that we have politicians making pronouncements and the National Cohesion and Integrity Commission has not summoned any of them to go and answer is is an indictment on the national the commission. The fact that we have policemen on the same side, and I'm glad that there are images to support this, on the same side as goons. Javas will not tell you, but I'll tell you this without fear or prejudice, that the state is definitely involved. There's no way the police can be on the same side as people who are brandishing weapons unless they're together with them. We've seen the media sometimes even falling in the hands of the police just because they were in the wrong place sometimes. So it is impossible for you to be around them with a weapon and they don't know you. That one is for sure. As a matter of fact, if you ask some of the people who live in the informal settlements in Nairobi, they will tell you that a young man will be arrested for loitering. You could very easily be released after that arrest. But if you're found with a weapon, a knife, a penknife, whatever it is, you're going to be locked up. They know it themselves. So if you can be locked up for having a penknife in Nairobi, what is it that is acceptable about you having a bow and arrow in Kisumu? For the record, my people, Dennis, the Luos, don't use bows and arrows. They don't.
He was saying this earlier.
They do not. So if you see them with bows and arrows, it definitely means these have been supplied by a different force. I'm not saying they could not be Luos, they could be. But then those weapons have been supplied by somebody else, and that person did not take time enough to think and cover their plan effectively by making sure that the weapons in their hands are the ones they use.
In this
you
area.
all know, my people, the Luos, are Mawe people. We are so good with the Mawe, we don't need to use anything else to send a projectile. So for me, we must speak to the matter on the table. The state has observed, let me not call it the state, the government has observed that it is not popular. The citizens have been demanding for the government to do certain things, and they are not willing to do those things. And so they have decided that they're going to manufacture opposition for the... Does this make sense? Opposition for the opposition. You know? So that when the opposition is on the ground, they don't get to execute their agenda, because every time they execute their agenda, it is glaring that the government does not have the support of the people. It would have been easier, no. It would have been much easier, Dennis, for the government to just say, you know what, Kenyans have said they want 1, 2, 3. Can we promise this and then tell them this one we cannot do because we need these kinds of resources and we don't have them available, and start working? Even Kenyans would understand that there's goodwill. For now, for as long as the government continues to operate as if they don't have the means to arrest people, they're not even able to call each other to order for the things that they're not doing. Indeed, we have discussed in this very studio that when IEBC is conducting elections, they sit with ORPP in the same room. They sit with tertiary education institutions and other education institutions to confirm the qualification of candidates. They sit with the police. They sit with every single agency responsible for elections, including the judiciary, to discuss matters elections, so that they can look at the entire continuum of elections, all the way to disciplinary and to the point where it gets to litigation in court, to discuss what happens when things go wrong. So the IEBC does not even need to beg the police to arrest.
Surely.
They just need to announce, and we need to know that they have publicly asked the police to arrest. Then we'll go back to the IG and say, why haven't you arrested? And the IEBC has asked you to arrest. Have you seen any action from anybody? Everyone who is in this government is complicit, and the person that they have put on the altar to be sacrificed is a citizen of Kenya. And Kenyans are telling them, you know what? We want peace. We will vote. We are able to and they've been saying this when they go for protests. We are peaceful. They have been saying this when they come out. They don't come out with weapons. They come out with the flag. Now they're saying, okay, fine. We are not even participating in this. You're still causing violence around us. We don't come with weapons. You bring people with weapons. So somebody's not listening to Kenyans, and they have decided they will manufacture popularity by ensuring that they make the opposition look like it's unpopular. Unfortunately, this is the age when data speaks louder than any other action that you take. And so they can't manufacture this. We must ask ourselves the question of, what do you do with individuals who cannot serve their purposes? If the president is serious about safety in this country and protection of the citizens, he should get the people in that Ministry of Interior to go home. This is an indictment on a man who has gone through political leadership programs where he even signed covenants to be faithful.
to the Constitution.
Murkomen went through the political leadership and governance program. You sign a covenant at the end of the training that you will be faithful as a leader when you get elected. Murkomen is a man who campaigned in a very, very volatile area. And as a matter of fact, there was a period when he was in trouble because there were conflicts in his area. The group, the alumni of that class were the ones who were campaigning for him on the ground and protecting him. Today, he has forgotten and is now participating in politicking around the questions of peace in this country. This is irresponsible of this government. But beyond irresponsible, it is a sign of extreme incompetence. Because if they do not know what is going to shake the ground under their feet, then I'm certain that they do not know what they are bargaining for with this game that they are playing. And I suspect, I dare say, that they actually don't know where the line is drawn on this. If you hand over a good constitution to people who did not believe in it, to people who did not even believe in the processes that Craig La, Kofi Annan, etc. were working on, then this is the result that you get. Unfortunately, we even find ourselves on the Kofi Annan Index for 2026-2027, recently published, and it's basically saying that Kenya has a high possibility of having violence. That at 81.4%, and moderate violence, 75.4%. Number 12, after going through all the processes we have gone through, setting up systems, we are ranking in terms of systems. We just refuse to make those systems work because we have madmen running the nation.
We're going to take a break at that point and come back. I think we just real quick, we'll come back. Jarvis, it's you up next when we do that. And I just hold on to that because I know that you want to respond. We're having this conversation whereby violence rocks. It seems that's what we're looking at today, and that madness of a nation. And unfortunately, that's what's right on the headlines. Attacks condemned. Should we be having those conversations? We'll be back with more after this.
This is the Situation Room. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
To the break is something. Is it not, Jarvis?
Stella has got clear optical lenses on some issues just as much as myself.
Okay.
On issues of governance and politics and democracy in this country and on the continent. Now, the issue of violence that is being manifested is something that all of us are condemning. Even Honorable C.S. Kipchumba Murkomen has condemned vehemently, spoken against it, and in fact indicated that government is sternly going to take action against any individual who is going to be a perpetrator of violence in the country now and even moving into the election. The issue about the indicator in the Kofi Annan report. Now, look, nearly after every election since 2007, every Western democracy has billed our election as potentially violent. And we've shamed them because violence is not our character. Just a few elements who occasion this violence for their own personal interest. And in fact, let me tell you, by the grace of He who created us, I am sure that 2027 we are going to have very peaceful elections. The thing is this. When we say that we expect the rule of law, sobriety, to lead us even as we transition in these present times of the current constitution, what we're witnessing even in Ol-Kalou, are we not seeing even legislators like Senator Matatu, who was sponsored and elected on UDA, campaigning for DCP, contrary even to our own laws and regulations on matters of principles of political parties and affiliation to political parties? Why are we not calling such individuals out? Just 3 days ago or so, we saw the DCP leader, Rigathi Gachagua, issuing a stern warning to the governor of Muranga and telling him not to set foot in Ol-Kalou. A day later, we are seeing the affront in Nyandarua. And in fact, on the orders and warning of Rigathi Gachagua, they never set foot in Ol-Kalou. I mean, this ethnic warlordship is what we must also condemn, because it is a barometer, an indicator of what lies ahead about the characters of certain politicians who think that they are playing God in the control of regions in our politics. It is itself an existential threat. And that's why when we condemn, we must not be partially condemnative of that which we feel is ill, and then we absorb like a sponge to water that which we find that we can be okay with. So we must call out all these ills. The thing about, for example, the bows and arrows and the wooden batons. Look, of course, it is improper that people should carry weapons whenever we are having campaigns.
It's criminal. We can just call it that.
It's criminal.
Yeah.
And even when you look at the code of conduct, electoral code of conduct, from regulation 10 all the way to 20, actually to 19, IBC can, in fact, when it has sufficient evidence, recommend prosecution of certain individuals to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Now, when you walk across all the hardwares across town in Nairobi, across villages and hamlets, they're all these wooden batons. They're not owned by government, these hardwares. It is individuals who go there and procure these wooden batons, etc. We must condemn politicians who are sponsoring and forming groups that are terrorizing citizens across the country. Secondly, like I lamented a little earlier, it is also important that expeditiously the IG of police moves swiftly to investigate and apprehend individuals who have been caught on camera carrying all these weapons, including bows and arrows and all these wooden batons. This is what we expect. Now, my relative Stella here has called out CS Murkomen. But CS Murkomen, sincerely, on record, and you can play it, has come out, even including last Sunday, yesterday, to issue stern warnings, guided and directed, and they are properly coordinating the issue of ensuring security across all parts of the country and including the elections that are going to take place.
Stern warning to whom?
Of course, to every citizen, to all culprits, to all because it is the ministry that is in charge of security and coordination of the same.
Have we seen that people have acted or stopped behaving badly based on stern warnings?
You see, behavior, character, morality as we all know it, cannot be codified successfully. While laws can there to stop people from acting in anomalous ways, abnormal ways, or out of context, I think also there is the place of sanity that is individual to respect the law. Because look,
okay, when
the law is there,
we can just do this like human beings, whereby it's very clear that if there's something that's happening that is wrong, that is criminal, that is against the law.
Yes.
The expectation, that word that you've liked to use today, the expectation is that those who abrogate it should then be arrested.
Correct. And
period. Not warning, condemning, all of this. It's been happening for too long, and it's not yielded.
And you remember
the
situation in Kehumbu a few weeks ago, where one person lost their life.
Actually, two died.
Actually, two later on. And a number of persons injured. We've seen that a couple of individuals have been apprehended and to be arraigned in court on the charges related to the same. We must all condemn acts of violence. Isn't it not curious, for example, where we sit even this morning, that somebody like Rigathi Gachagua, Kalonzo Musyoka have not even condemned the violence in Nyahururu and even in Kisumu? After Rigathi Gachagua himself warned an opposition faction from going to Ol-Kalou, is he not a party possibly that could be behind some of these happenings?
Could it?
Now, it's possible because of territoriality of political parties and the political interests in this country, as we have seen over time.
One then asks the question, Stella, in everything that Javas has said, and I want to focus on the police. The Interior Ministry is the well-resourced institution in this country based off the budget policy statement that we see today. What is actually the Act of Parliament? It is a well-resourced institution that is mandated to take care of Kenyan security. Now, Inspector General of Police, you have requested and urged him to come out and ensure that all these things are happening. We have one of the best intelligence in this country that have been able to foil terrorist attacks
in the region and even in the continent.
Thank you, even in the continent. am I wrong to say that intelligence of this country knows exactly what is happening in these regions? That this information is shared with the highest office in the land because he is the number one consumer of intelligence in the country. Because why? He chairs the National Security Council. That when everything else is happening, we cannot sit here and ask the interior IG or police to act. He knows his job. If we have to urge the man to work, he doesn't need to be in that office. If we have to sit here and ask every other person to investigate, they need to leave that office because there is nothing they are doing to assure Wananchi that they are working. Am I wrong to think like that?
Let me start by saying you're not wrong to think like that. After I say that, I want to disabuse us of this idea of gaslighting Kenyans. We really must stop. Kenyans cannot vote, pay hefty taxes, assign, not assign, but cede power to government to do certain jobs, and then you still come back and ask them to behave themselves. It is not 55 million Kenyans who are on the streets fighting. It's a handful of them. We know what criminals, where criminals are supposed to be. We know what is supposed to be happening to criminals. Number one. Number two, as Javas was speaking, I kept on remembering a funny song. There's a Nigerian comedian who keeps on playing a song that says marriage is a barbed wire. And the reason why that song was playing in my head is because I am just thinking of the barbed wire that keeps on showing up early in the morning on the days of protests. I don't think the police instruct themselves to put that barbed wire on the streets of Nairobi. I don't think they instruct themselves on stopping Kenyans from protesting, because if they were to act by the law, they know they should not stop Kenyans who have given them notices of protest from protesting. They know. So what am I saying? That Javas is not going to say in this room. There is interference with the police. Assuming you saw nothing else. You know, we've seen IG Kanja before these days that we've been, like, at least before the last 6 months. So we know the difference between a bold IG and an IG who is under siege. We know a man who's under the influence of something. And the truth is, I don't even know what is currently influencing him. But I know there are too many hands that are tugging and pulling.
Because otherwise, we wouldn't have these gentlemen.
Otherwise, we wouldn't
in the
be having
presence
this. Yes.
of criminals.
Yes, number one. Number two, before this matter became as sensitive as it is now, there was a day he said he does not know who those people who are wielding batons are. And then when he got a bit of a shaking here and there, he actually stopped talking about it. These days, he just stands quietly, as if he's not the IG. What am I saying? I am saying that the police do not have the independence that Javas rightly claims they should be having as they execute their duties. If they did, they would not be moving on the same side with people who have weapons, number one. Number two, they would not also be allowing themselves to be accused this much. Do you think that the IG does not want to have a good record? He's about to retire. Do you think he wants to leave a legacy of claims that he was incompetent after his entire career? This is a man who's under siege. I can't claim, like Rigathi Gachagua, that I know what kind of siege that the IG is in, but he's under siege. The other question I'm asking myself, why or what is it that is influencing their actions that they're so afraid of that they cannot do their job? Because the Constitution guarantees their independence. Nobody can fire the IG if he decides to arrest those people today. As a matter of fact, if he even attempts to expose and say who they are, nobody can stop him. Nobody can tell him anything. Why is he not going against those forces to do what he needs to do for Kenyans? The CS for Interior is my target today in this conversation, because I know a time when Matiang'i was in the same ministry, and I remember a lady called Yvonne Afsositi, we all know her. She makes beautiful dresses, African dresses. Was attacked on the Eastern bypass, and she was with her babies in the cars, and she was really shaken and everything. And she wrote her story, I think, on Facebook or something, somewhere, social media. She wrote the story on a day like today. She accounts that she received a phone call from Matiang'i himself. And within no time, the gangs that were attacking people on the Eastern bypass were dealt with. Our cabinet secretary had the time to call a citizen I've not even seen Matiang'i wearing too many African outfits, so I don't think it's because he was his client. He was Yvonne's client. He just chose to act on the matter because Kenya needs to be safe for businessmen. It needs to be safe for women. It needs to be safe for children. It needs to be safe for the youth of this country. It needs to be safe for everyone. That anybody who does not want to comply with the constitution needs to be dealt with. So if a CS could call a business lady who just makes beautiful bespoke outfits for people, why not call the IG and find out from the IG what is going wrong and come back and tell Kenyans this is why the IG cannot arrest those people? All right? If not, then tell us who these people brandishing batons are. Because this row of people who are in Kisumu yesterday, where is it? Kisumu, yes? Kisumu. Yesterday. They were not far. If there are people who are looking at those images, there are people who know that is my brother, that is my cousin. So is the government of Kenya saying that with a powerful national intelligence system, they have no capacity to know who those people are? Yet they were able to trace every single Gen Z who was on the street and abduct them and go and interrogate them and then release them. What are we saying? Why are we playing these games with the lives of Kenya? Why are we playing these games with a nation that has taken so long to bring to this place? And the question I asked that I'm going to keep asking is, what is this about this politics that is so big that we're willing to finish this nation in the process of trying to achieve political power? Honestly, we are completely out of order. The buck stops at the CS for Interior. If the matter was feeding and farming, we would not even be mentioning Interior CS.
But since it's
the last time we were here discussing disasters and water and the floods in Nairobi, we did not mention his name because it was not his responsibility. Today, the assignment, anything that happens in this country concerning security, the buck stops at his desk. He and his peers should be the ones answering to us why the system is not working. Nobody is being reprimanded. We have not seen anybody being arrested, and no action is being taken. Yet, we all know that there is someone instigating this violence. Citizens don't organize in that uniform manner. They do not. This is not spontaneous. Do not tell me that the opposition is facing opposition from their strongholds. For heaven's sake, Kisumu is fighting. No.
But you see, let's face it. Whenever government has taken stern action, there has also been lamentations. Now, look, agreeably, there is choreographed and coordinated effort to mudsling the PS for Interior, Dr. Raymond Omolo, and CS for Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen, when they actually taken stern action and properly superintending matters security and coordination of government business in the country. The issue about investigating and apprehension or apprehending individuals who are involved in all these skirmishes, we have said that we actually rightfully expect the police to conduct this business as quick as possible. The thing is this: let us have institutions and give them time to do their work, because they are best placed to do their work than us. The other thing is this: we must actually not try to push our nation to the cliff in the name of politics.